couple of interesting outcomes last night. Lakers did what everybody expected, got up 3-1. We'll see whether or not that holds this time for the Denver Nuggets. And unexpected outcome, Fitzmagic was ablaze down in Jacksonville, where the Miami Dolphins won their first game by double digits for the first time since 2017. Minshew Mania came up craps at the table there. No big performance. Beard outdueled mustache. And one of the things that's most exciting as we roll into the weekend, I always like to do sort of a draft of games that you're most excited to watch. And it's both Saturday and Sunday now. Because for me, with SEC football coming back, it feels like things are getting back to normal in a big way in college football. For instance, I don't really consider until all of the SEC was going, and probably there's some Big Ten fans out there that'll say, hey, Clay, I respect the fact that you grew up an SEC fan. I thank you for fighting to get the Big Ten football back. But for me, it's not really college football season until your favorite team in college football plays their first game. And usually that's always pretty much the opening weekend. But this year, it's such a staggered start to the season. I grew up a University of Tennessee fan, and so until I see Tennessee run through the T, and are they even going to get to run? I don't even know the answer to that, Dub. Do you know?
I haven't heard anything. I have no.
Are the bands on the road? Like, will they even do like the open of the Tennessee running through the T?
That's a great question.
I haven't even thought about that till right now. But for those of you out there who aren't familiar with the particular rivalries, like for instance, I know you're an Auburn guy, Dub, and they're not going to allow, although that seems crazy to me, but they're not going to allow the Eagle to land on the field. Did you see that story?
Are condors carriers of the virus?
Well, I don't know. That's what I was like. Are people going to die from the COVID that the Eagle is going to bring to bear on the field? Seems strange to me. But I know there are bands, but I don't think are the bands traveling. I don't think usually for those of you out there who are big college football fans, for big programs, the bands go on the road with the team. At least a travel version of the band does. And so you would be able to run through the T at the opening, for instance, of the University of Tennessee's football game in Knoxville. And I'm assuming the band will be on the field for that, but I don't really know how it'll feel. That's the opener anyway. For what Tennessee usually does is the band walks out, they form a T on the field, and the team comes running out through the T. It's incredible vision. One of the great things about college football is all the tradition and rivalry. And so when I wrote my second book, I got to run through the T with the University of Tennessee for the Alabama game. Now, they lost to Alabama, but for people out there who spend their whole lives like wondering what would that experience be like, I got to write about it for part of my second book. And so my point is, until your team plays, you really won't feel, in my mind, that college football is back. And my team is Tennessee, and the SEC is playing. So I'm pretty ecstatic about that. In fact, I'm helping to coach a little bit a flag football team that my 10-year-old is playing in, fourth grade. And those games are all on Saturday this fall. And I'm like, what in the world have I gotten myself into? I'm going to have to be checking my phone, sort of secretly, surreptitiously on the sideline to see what's going on with the games, because we have a game that kicks off for our flag football league at 1 o'clock on Saturday.
Easy solution there, Clay. Just get a big play call menu like Andy Reid and just hide your phone underneath that.
It would be funny if I tailgated, right? If I brought my own setup so I could be able to watch the flag football game and then also check and see what everybody else is doing. But one of the things that I like about college football and the NFL coming back is making a draft pick, right? We do this a lot on the show. And Dub, I thought you and I, as we finish off hour 2, could make our 2 top picks for both the NFL and for college football, meaning you can only watch these 2 games in both college football and in the NFL. Which would you pick? Which would you be committed to? Partly this can be sometimes gambling influence because you're like, oh, I love this game. I'm putting down a bunch of money. I got to watch it. It can also be your favorite teams. You can only pick 2 in the NFL and in college football to watch, all right? I will start with the NFL, Dub, all right? I will give you the 2 games that if I could only pick 2, let's say that you got busy activities, You're not going to be able to sit around and watch the NFL all day. Which two games are you most intrigued to watch in the NFL? And I'm taking, by the way, favorite teams out of the equation, right? Because I would watch the Titans. They would be my first pick. I'm a season ticket holder. I don't want to miss any of their games. But I understand that for most people out there, picking the Titans-Vikings as your number one draft pick for an NFL Sunday this weekend would be a disaster, right? So the games that I am most excited to watch in the NFL, I would say pretty straight. I'm not counting Monday, right? Because everybody wants to watch the Chiefs and the Ravens on Monday. I would say the game that I am most excited to watch is probably Cowboys-Seahawks. And that's because Russell Wilson right now is the MVP of the league. And I think it's hard not to want to watch what he's doing. I mean, on, what was it, Monday? There was a period there, Dub, where he had more touchdown passes than he did in completions, which is just flat out unbelievable to even think about that somebody could be able to accomplish that. So that would be my number one overall pick in the NFL. I will turn to you. Your overall number one pick in the NFL would be what?
Definitely intrigued by your pick, no doubt. I'm going to go maybe on a different route than most would. I'm looking at the Rams and Bills game. I'm really interested in that one because the Rams are 2-0. We know how hot they were a few years back when they made the Super Bowl run and everyone was calling Sean McVay boy genius. Well, no one talked about the Rams this offseason. Here they are, 2-0. They've looked really good. They've beaten the Cowboys, and they really beat up the Eagles last week. And the Bills, Josh Allen, he's leading the league in pass yards, believe it or not. And he's been playing awesome, running the ball, throwing the ball. So that's the game I think I'd pick out of the NFL.
All right, so that's our NFL first-round picks, all right? Now let's go into college football. And again, what I'm saying for college football is you can't just pick your favorite team. Because I'm sure for you would watch that noon Eastern Auburn kick against Kentucky. And if you drafted that as your number one overall college football pick, everybody would say, my God, you're insane, right? And I would watch an evening game on Saturday kicking off. I would watch Tennessee, as I was saying earlier, on the road against South Carolina because those are our two favorite teams. But when I look, and by the way, Kentucky-Auburn isn't even that bad of a game because there's so few teams in the AP Top 25 poll right now that it is actually a matchup of top 25 teams. And it kind of gives you a sense for how weak the AP Top 25 poll is. Louisville against Pittsburgh is a matchup of top 25 teams as well. And so obviously there's much to be desired there in terms of classifying that as a game that you have to see. But to me, I think I'm most intrigued, if I could only watch one, by what's going to happen with LSU and Mississippi State. I really do think Mike Leach's first game in the SEC, the fact that it's happening down on the Bayou, it's the CBS SEC kickoff game. It is, to me, a really intriguing game. The one that I'm also close to drafting, but I decided not to, was another one in the state of Mississippi, because Mississippi has probably the two most interesting coaches in college football anywhere in the country right now. I'm pretty intrigued to see what's going to happen with Florida going on the road against Ole Miss as well. But I would go, I believe, I could only watch one SEC game outside of the one that I'm most interested in watching. I would go with I think, the Mississippi State fighting Mike Leach's on the road against national champion LSU. Remember all the stuff that LSU has lost. Mike Leach against Coach O feels like it's almost a cartoon battle. Also, I can't wait to see these guys actually try to wear masks. I feel like many different many different college coaches are going to have all these different issues with the mask. I feel like Leach versus Coach O. I mean, you can't even understand what Coach O is saying normally. Can you imagine him wearing a headset with a with a mask on? There's no way anybody's going to have any clue what's going on actually there.
That's such a great point about Coach O.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, there's no way he can call plays in.
I'm looking at West Virginia, Oklahoma State, because Oklahoma State, a lot of people have them preseason in their playoff, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Based off this, they look
crazy.
Awful.
They looked
Absolutely
atrocious
awful.
against Tulsa.
That
Tulsa,
total
right?
it was Tulsa. That total last week was well over 60. And I saw a tweet that a better placed $45,000 on the over. I think it was 62 or 63. Well, the total ended up being, I think, 16 total points in that game. So
yeah, that ain't good.
We'll see if Mike Gundy and the boys can turn it around on offense against a decent West Virginia team.
If you put down $50,000 on that game, do you think it would be more enjoyable to lose by like a field goal that's missed at the final minute, or just never, ever have your bet be in the mix at all?
I'm a firm believer in just getting it over with, ripping off the Band-Aid, just knowing that this game is dead, your bet is dead midway through the second quarter. I'd much rather have that than, be sitting at 62 points and the kicker doinks one off the upright to lose your over.
Yeah, I know, trust me, that feeling as well. Up next, we're going to talk with John McClain, who's been covering the NFL for 44 years, about more of these stories surrounding the return of Week 3 in the NFL. What else do we expect to see? We'll talk about it. This is Outkick on Fox Sports Radio.